This is going to be some top level StarCraft play. July Zerg. I don't know if anyone read the little hype thread that the staff put together for this this matchup, but July Zerg, as I mentioned in my thing of that, is he keeps disappointing us. He keeps disappointing us over and over and over again. He gets to the round. He's literally gotten to the round of 16 in like half of the Star Leagues since like 2006, and the other half he's gotten into the round of 32, and he keeps just getting out in the early levels. And so this round, you know, he got in the round of 16. We're like, oh well, he's playing well, but for some reason he'll figure out a way to die to the rock. And then he completely owned the hell out of the rock, and we're like, wait a second. Oh well, round of 8. Bako's been playing decently. He'll probably, you know, get July out because July can't seem to make it very far. And then again, completely owning Bako. And not just owning him because the other players didn't play well, but also owning them just in the fact that he is so incredibly smart. And one of the things that I think a lot of people have not noticed about July Zerg is, you know, he doesn't often do the spectacular. He doesn't do like the complete and utter genius feats of micro that make you just go, oh my god, how did you do that? But lately, he's been performing at a high, consistent level. And so, you know, a lot of people can come out with, you know, feats of micro, but they're not as consistent. And that's basically the difference between July Zerg of the last several seasons and July Zerg this season, is he has actually been keeping his level of play really, really, really high up. And like I said, he's not pulling out the little tiny little things that make you go wow, but his level of play is so high that he's making it look effortless, and that is one of the reasons why we're not noticing how well he's playing, I think. That's something I was thinking about. But Best, on the other hand, you know, is just been on complete fire. He's been owning everyone. He has been showing those moments of complete and utter genius, as well as keeping a high level of consistent, very good play. So I think this is going to be a really, really good matchup. I don't think we've seen players that were this well matched in a while. The last OSL was a little bit of a blowout. The OSL previous to that, I believe, I don't remember who was in the OSL previous to that actually. Well,
GG Play versus Iris was a close.
That was pretty close.
I think
too,
that was.
yeah.
I'm not sure if it was one OSL ago or two OSL ago, but GG Play versus Iris went down to the wire. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Moletrap, that we do have a match where it's impossible to predict who's going to win. There's some people saying July, there's some people saying Best. In terms of the survey we did of the SC2GG staff, it was split 50-50, 5-5, even though it was dominated by July fans. But I have to say, all ye doubters be cast in hellfire, because I never doubted July. I knew he was going to pummel the rock and turn him into sand and gravel, and I knew he was going to show Bako the back door, and he did. And now he's going to best, and I'm sure he's going to come on top. He's not going to disappoint us. This is the month of July. This is July's month. It's July Zerg, and I think one important thing we shouldn't forget is July's past history. I know we like to gloss over things like that here, but there is such a thing as pedigree. And pedigree isn't as easily overcome as one might think. Now, obviously, I'm severely biased, being a massive Zerg fan and a July fan. But just watching these two guys, walk onto the stage, just the difference in their demeanor, and you can see the two badges clipped on July's shirt, and I'm sure Best has seen them as well. But just seeing the demeanor, July strode on with purpose. He strode on with purpose and with hunger and with determination, whereas Best clearly overawed. Yeah, he's clearly overawed by the stage that he finds himself on, and the question is, will he be able to have? We know he's got the skill. Will he be able to provide the mental fortitude on this big stage, or will he melt? We've seen players like Stork. How many times has it happened to Stork? Looks amazing in the entire season, destroyed everyone, got to the finals, and he lost not one but two finals, or is it three finals now that he's lost? I think he lost two finals to Bisu, and he's lost one to Jaedong. So, obviously in the MSL and the OSL both combined. So the question is, what can Best do here against July? Can he break the Stork curse, or is he going to be another Protoss hope in a long line of Protoss hopes to fall by the wayside, crushed under the might of the Zerg swarm? It was Jaedong, it was Savior doing it for a while, then it was Jaedong, and maybe now it's July's turn to take over and keep up the good work of keeping the Protoss down where they belong, beneath our Zerg feet. But I have to say, It's alright. But yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about this matchup. I think it's going to be a great game of StarCraft. One thing it's important to forget when I was talking about pedigree and history, let's not forget that in the last time July won the OSL finals, he beat Reach. He managed to beat Reach, and at that time, Reach was looking like Best is looking now. He was looking charismatic, he was looking dangerous, he was looking unstoppable, creative, and he still has a lot of fans based on simply his performance in that season. There are people who are still his fans on that. So it's not like this is the first time July is coming up against a Protoss player who seems unstoppable. And I think we also have to keep the statistics a little bit in mind, but I'm going to probably let Moletrap talk more about that, and I don't want to ramble endlessly. But I think if you keep the statistics in mind, the statistics probably do favor July as well, but I'll let Moletrap elaborate on that a bit more.
Yeah, it seems that I'm probably going to have to take Best's side just to keep some evenness in this cast. Although, honestly, I do think that Best has been playing better. I'm not just saying that. I think he has been playing better recently. You do bring up a good point, though, about pedigree. I mean, July, he's been here 7 times before. Not at the OSL finals, but I mean, he's been to really clutch situations. I mean, he's won 4 Star Leagues. He's come in second on 2 Star Leagues. He is, came in third at World Cyber Games Korea a couple of years ago. So he has been in clutch situations before. That's definitely true. Not recently, but he definitely looks a little bit more comfortable, especially kind of walking in. Best looked a little bit awkward. That said, though, I do think that Best has been playing better. He's just been looking extremely, extremely good. He cannot, however... wait, is there something wrong with my audio? Sorry, anyway, I'll talk to you about it in a second. But he can't let his guard down with July, basically. He let his guard down with Luxury, and Luxury almost gave it to him because of that. Luxury took the first 2 games because Best was just not on top of his game, and it took partly into the 3rd game before Best woke up and actually took it seriously. If he does that to July, he's gonna bring himself into too much of a deficit. However, if he goes into this with his mind on it, on top of things, playing his best, if he's warmed up, I do think that Best is going to take it. That's my opinion, at least. Just because he's been playing so spectacularly, and in those clutch moments where something super, completely ridiculously elite is necessary, Best is the one that's been actually doing that. Whereas July, like I said, he's been playing so consistently well, but he hasn't been pulling out those clutch moments quite as much. So when it comes down to that one moment, Best is going to take that moment. I think that's what's going to win it for him in the long run. But I'm not counting July out by any means. Don't think that, because I definitely think that he has a strong chance in this as well.
Yeah, well, it's too close to call, and that's probably what really adds to the excitement. That's why the stadium is so full. I think, in terms of, if we talk about rivalries or finals, I think probably in the MSL, potentially a Jaedong versus Much final would be the only thing that could top what we're seeing here today. Obviously, these guys don't have that history, don't have that rivalry, and aren't fighting for the top spot yet. I think Best, unfortunately, I have to feel bad for him, because even if he wins this OSL, he's still going to have a little bit more to do before he really establishes himself as a champion of champions, as July has done already. But yeah, I mean, we talk about clutch situations. Best did come out against in a very tough game against Luxury, where it looked like he was down and out, and he managed to pull it out. So he certainly seems to have the mental fortitude to pick up his game when it needs to be, and that is the first thing that you need to see in a champion. But on the other hand, I would have to ask the question, who did he get past on the way? He didn't have to play against Flash, because Luxury managed to beat Flash and catch Flash off guard. So he didn't have to compete against Flash. He managed to beat Luxury, who really had his chances and wasn't able to take them. It wasn't so much so that Best took his chances, but also that Luxury didn't take his. And again, Luxury is one of those players that's been on the fringes of greatness for some time now. He's been on the fringes of the finals, or of winning the finals, but he hasn't really been able to establish himself as one of the S-class players, as one of the players who will be remembered long after. I mean, we watch StarCraft now. We remember players like Boxer, we remember Nada, we remember UUV. But how many other StarCraft players were there that were second or third or in the top 10, in the top 5, that challenged regularly but never quite made it, that played StarCraft in the past before some of us started watching, or all of us started watching? How many of those players were there that no one remember, that most of us don't remember? I'm sure there are tons and tons of StarCraft players that have
That's
just
true.
faded into history, yeah, they've just become leaves on the wind, and you know, there's nothing to separate them from each other, and you know, July Zerg will be remembered. This is Best's chance to make himself remembered. Luxury, you know, I think 3 years from now or 4 years from now, if he's not playing StarCraft anymore, no one's going to remember him. No one's going to remember Yellow Arnak, Luxury's brother, either, unless they achieve something significant. Stork, maybe he will remember. We don't know. C, who's going to remember C? Midas? Do we even talk about Midas anymore? There have been so many players who have come and gone. So I think, yes, it's significant was what Best has achieved to get to the final here. But let's not make any bones about it. Let's not underestimate July and what he's capable of and what we're going to see from him today. I think we're going to have a cracking match, and I would be loathed. I think it would be almost foolhardy to say that Best has seen everything there is to see out there and beaten it. I think this is going to require another level. He's going to have to transcend and play at his best consistently, because otherwise July will take advantage of it. I'm not sure if Moletrap is still there. You
Yeah,
there, Moletrap?
I'm still here. Again, like I said, I'm trying to take care of some audio thing. Oh, never mind. Okay.
Okay, looks like we're almost ready to get up for game one. I think we should move on to discussing the maps. What do you feel? I mean, there have been a lot of conflicted arguments about the map pool, with Othello being played twice. Some people say it should favor July because obviously Zergs are so good at expanding and teching and doing everything at once. Other people say that because of the mobility issues on the map, it should favor the Reaver Stair kind of play that Best is capable of pulling out, and also his heavy macro style. So what are your opinions on the map pool, and especially Andromeda, which is the first game?
The first game is actually on Othello, but
oh, sorry, Othello. That's what I meant.
that's
Sorry,
right.
My bad. Yeah, Othello, which is the first and last map.
Yeah.
So it's obviously the critical map.
Othello's a very interesting map. I'm not sure. Basically, I mean, both players I think are going to have to play the maps for what they are. I've always been the kind to say, you know, some people say, oh, the map is imbalanced against whatever. I usually like to say, well, it's up to the players to actually come up with a strategy that happens to work for the map. It may be that a map works well for a standard Zerg strategy, but that does not mean that a player cannot come up with a strategy that will actually, you know, work for against it, basically. So I don't know. It's and Best is basically the kind of player. A lot of people do think that these maps are biased towards Zerg, some of them, but I don't know. I think Best is the kind of player that can come up with something that that will be able to deal with it. Although I'm not saying that that's a guarantee that he'll be able to come up with it, because he hasn't really shown those kind of brilliant strategies. He's basically won off of brilliant micro and brilliant tactics and mechanics and macro, but he hasn't come out with the brilliant innovative builds that much that really win situations where you're down on the map or you completely catch your opponent by surprise. So I don't know. That's just something to think about. Let's see. Other than that, though, yeah, Andromeda I think does. Again, just according to standard play, Andromeda does favor Zergs a little bit because they're able to get 3 bases pretty easily, and they're able to protect them pretty easily. But on the other hand, depending on strategies, again, it can also favor the Protoss very easily, because then the Protoss is able to get 3 bases, whereas sometimes... my sound just went down. Okay, let me know if this is a little bit better. If the Protoss is able to get 3 bases, and the Zerg has to get...
You're too loud now, Moletrap.
I'm too loud. Okay, well, I'm just not going to listen to people that are saying...
Yeah, you're perfect before.
Alright, screw you people in IRC telling me I'm...
Oh, sorry.
People in IRC were saying, like, oh, Moletrap is too quiet now, or something like that, so I tried to be louder.
Yeah.
Alright.
I don't know.
So, what was I saying?
Hopefully we won't have too many sound issues where we'll be in sync in sound. That is something that I think one of our previous recorded commentaries, there was a volume differential, so hopefully we won't have that this time around.
Okay.
But sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, well basically my main point is that I think a lot of these maps actually can favor Protoss, because especially the 3-player ones, like Andromeda, I think in the end, because of the macro style of play of Best, he might be able to do a better job, because I think he's lead enough to hold his door against early game, and then once it gets into a longer macro game, that small door for 3 bases is going to make it really easy for him to defend 3 bases, whereas on a standard map, usually you'd have to move out of your base to get your 3rd base, and so on a map like Andromeda, you know, it's not necessarily the case. Something like Troy, again, depending on how it's played, if the Protoss can take air superiority, they can do the same thing though. They can easily take a lot of bases and defend them pretty well if they get that air superiority. July Zerg has been known to go for that quick air superiority. He does have the guts to do it, so I think on Troy at least, July Zerg is probably going to be able to do better on that map, just based on his style of play. I don't know. It's hard to say. One thing, by the way, that I just was reminded of before I give the mic back up, but Diggity actually thought that it might be interesting to mention that Ruin was talking to him, and this is something that I'd noticed a little bit myself, but I hadn't really put my finger on, like I hadn't thought about it too much just yet, that a lot of Zergs lately have been skipping Zergling speed early on in order to get their tech a little bit faster. And I've been noticing lately, why doesn't that Zerg have Zergling speed? It's like 5 minutes into the game, or 5 minutes into the action or whatever. The point was that they're being able to get their tech a lot earlier because of that, actually. So that's something that we might see play into consideration as well. And the thought was that the Protoss might be able to respond by going a little bit quicker tech as well, by going like 1 gate DT Sair or something like that. I don't know. The maps, in general, Joe, just on one final thought, I don't think the maps will play terribly into things. There's a lot of maps this season, like Othello, for instance, which can be very biased towards Terran, but since there's no Terran involved, then it's not going to be as big of a deal. So, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? I'm not particularly keen on analyzing those sort of things. Not keen at, I should say.
As I said... Yeah, I think you're right. Seems to be best having a few technical issues, but I think they're almost ready to get started. Yeah, it's just impossible. There's so many variables. I've got to tell you guys, sitting here right now, just watching this, I've got butterflies in my stomach just from watching this, and I just cannot imagine. Just look at Best there. I just cannot imagine what they're going through right now, and how nervous they'll be. Obviously, for anyone who's played any sport and played it at any sort of competitive level, you will know that once you actually start playing, everything becomes automatic. You go in the zone, the crowd disappears, there's nothing but you and your sport, and whether that's your football or your tennis racket or your cricket bat or your hockey stick or whatever you want to call it, that's all that exists around you, and you get into that zone. And these guys are pros. Once they get in, the initial nerves and shake them off, they'll be fine. It's just a question of whether or not their play will be stunted at all. As I said, there's so many variables. The maps are one. How well have the players studied each other's strategies, and how well have they prepared for each other? July has been exclusively facing Protoss opponents of late, and he's got Cal in his team, who's quite a decent Protoss player to practice against. On the other hand, I'm not sure if there are too many amazing Zergs in SK Team 1 right now. I'm not sure at what level Go Rush is performing, and there are other Zerg players. So the question of practice partners might come into, although I do know that in the past, in the finals, players have practiced with players from outside of their teams for the finals. I remember, I think, was it Bisu talking about practicing with Savior once? No, it wasn't Savior, it was someone else. But it does happen. So there's just so many variables: practice partners, preparation, nerves, and it looks like we're gearing up just to start. The commentators have signaled for the camera to zoom in, the famous zoom in of the Star Leagues, and the intro is now playing for you guys who are trying to sync up with us. So the intro started playing for us. But yeah, this is going to be tremendous. This is going to be intense. I honestly, if July loses, fair enough. If Best wins, fair enough. Or if Best loses, whatever. I just hope we have a classic on our hands. I hope this goes to 5 rounds, no matter who wins at the end of the day. I hope for a great game of StarCraft and some great entertainment, because that's why we're all here. Especially those of you guys across the pond in the States, which is probably most of you, who've made the effort to stay up through the night or wake up at unholy hours of the morning in order to be able to watch this. And let's hope they don't disappoint. I don't think these two guys will. But yeah, for me, nerves are probably the biggest factor here that are going to influence the way the game is played, because a moment's hesitation will be enough for the other player to capitalize on. A moment's indecision, being cautious, and we saw that happen to Much versus Jaedong. I'm sorry for those of you guys who haven't watched it if I've spoiled it for you, but that's what happened to Much. It wasn't that he didn't have the skill, but he just seemed to get lost within the occasion and didn't seem to be able to produce his best StarCraft. And he seemed to play very defensively, very within himself. And you cannot win a Star League playing within yourself. You're going to have to be aggressive, you're going to have to be forceful, and you're going to have to be willing to take the game to your opponent and wrest the initiative away from them, because otherwise, before you know it, it'll be over and you'll be out. And then it'll be too late.
Yeah, and just real quick, one more time, just in case people missed it before.
Excuse me.
If you get to the beginning of the game, you're gonna have to pause your Dom player, or if you can, there's something about a slider. I guess I've never actually used Dom player, but I guess you have to actually like pull the slider, the status slider, back to wherever the commentary is, and I will be giving a countdown, or if Klazart happens to be talking at that moment, he will give a countdown as well of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 when that happens. So keep that in mind. Cholera may have sorted things out. He may be joining us here in a minute, possibly. But if okay, actually the game is starting, so we're just going to go without him and do game 1. Hopefully I'll game for 3, 2, 1,
2,
0.
1,
Sorry.
0.
And we see the verses. There's the intro screen, the objective screen, and here we go. We are starting game 1. They're showing the colors. They're just hitting cancel, so hopefully that was able to let you guys sync up a little bit there. This is Best. He's going to be in the blue, and he's going to be at the 7 o'clock position, and that means Jolizard is going to be the one up in the, I guess, 1 o'clock position. And let me get my recording, make sure it's still going. Take away Klazart, sorry.
Yeah, okay, so we've got Best versus July. This is it. This is the start. This is what we've all been waiting for. Let's hope it's a final for us to remember and savor for a long time. July starting up at the 1 o'clock position in purple and Zerg, and as Moletrap pointed out, Best is in blue. I'm not sure how color theory applies here at all. July looks like these are cross-map positions, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of strategy these guys go for and what influence it. Obviously, a rush strategy is less likely to succeed on cross-map positions. The other thing that we did talk about in previous times, July looks like he's gone for almost a 7 pool. I think July might have actually gone for a 7 pool here. He's putting down the spawning pool straight away, and this could prove disastrous for July. It is a huge risk. The only thing that's in obviously the only thing that's in favor that it is cross map, so it's going to take a couple of seconds for that probe to get across. Best is scouting early, and that's obviously important. Sometimes Protoss players risk not doing it, but the cross map positions might give July, and definitely, actually, he's not even gone for 7 pool. He's only got 5 drones there, so this is completely insane by July. This is just not at all what we would expect in this. This is do or die here. I'm not sure why he's committing himself to this. Maybe it's just pure guts. Now that spawning pool is gonna get scouted. It'll be interesting to see whether or not the Forge does go up, when the photon cannons go up. The other factor is gonna be that Best is going to have a lot of probes to go in. If Best goes for the Nexus here, it's going to be horrible for him. He still hasn't put the Forge down. He still hasn't scouted July. I think he might take the risk of going the Nexus first because he feels that July hasn't scouted him yet, and he's unlikely to get cut off now. But July is now morphing those Zerglings, and the probe is coming in. Moletrap, I just cannot believe this is happening.
Oh my gosh, he was saving up for the Nexus. He was hoping he'd be able to scout and see if he went for a 9 pool or whatever, and he was saving up for the Nexus. He finally gets the scouting as the Zerglings are coming up. His Forge is just coming up. Oh my goodness, I think that July's he's going to have to figure out where he is, though. I don't think he knows where Best is. His Overlord has gotten to the left. He may have seen the scouting probe with his Overlord, and if he did, he will know where he is. And he's actually sending the Zerglings down to the bottom left. He is sending the Zerglings to the bottom left. The Forge is just now going up. He's going to be able to warp in some cannons, but I don't think they're actually going to come in time. He's going to try and warp them in his main base. I think that's the smart move to do. He's going to have to basically try and delay as long as possible, and that putting his cannons in his main base is going to delay those Zerglings for another 10 seconds. Not even that, 5 seconds for it takes him to run into his main base. The Zerglings coming in here. First 4 Zerglings coming in. It looks like Jelizer didn't actually know where he was because he sent 2 Zerglings somewhere else. The cannons are not in yet. He's trying to block the cannons that are warping in with his probes. He's doing a very good job of it, actually. It looks like the cannon might just come in. There's only 1 cannon there. The probes are doing a good job of blocking it. It's got 2 pylons. He's not going to be able to take out the pylons. Jelizer now engaging the probes. Several probes are going down. The cannon warps in. The cannon is warped in. Best has stopped the Zerglings from cutting off the cannon, and he didn't even lose that many probes here. This is, I think, fatal, absolutely fatal for Best here. And now Best setting up some random proxy cannon in the corner there. Maybe that was his last-ditch hope for building a gateway outside in case his main base got killed or something like that. Jolizark is immediately switched over, and we've seen this a lot lately, where Zergs, they'll go for a rush, usually when it's a 9 pool, they'll go for a rush and then they'll switch immediately back over. Instead of going for powerlings, they'll switch back over to an economy build and catch up. And Best has been denied his expansion, and Jolizark's managed to get him an expansion. He only got 6 slings basically, so it's not even though 5 pool is ridiculously all in, and Jolizark may be able to make a longer game out of it, but at the same time, he has scouted Best base, but he doesn't know that proxy's there, so he might not be expecting 2 gateways to come up here in a minute, and Best critically has not lost any probes, so honestly I think Best has a major advantage here.
Yeah, that's the thing I was wondering. Yes, July has stopped Best. I think the key for July lies more than the economy. I think the key for July lies in the fact that he's denied Best his choice of strategy. So Best has been forced to. Best was obviously trying to get that fast expand up. He's been forced to do something else. July is scouting in Best's base with that Overlord just out of the range of that photon cannon. He's seen that one gateway, and will that one gateway be its leader? I think July's going to scout this here. July's sending the Zergling out, and this is brilliant for July. I think that Zergling has spotted those gateways. I'm not sure if it's within
I don't think it has.
visual range of those gateways or not.
Oh no!
I think it might be. I think July's pulled the Zergling back. Sorry, Moletrap. Yeah, July's pulled the Zergling back. I'm not sure if he's seen the gateway or not. He might have seen it. We don't see any signs that he has. We would see Sunken's going up. We have the two gateways are up, so Zealots are going to be pumping out. And I think that and Lair going up for July. No Sunken's yet, so July was within scouting range on that gateway. He's got Zerglings on either side, but he hasn't seen those Zealots. And I think by the time he sees them, it's going to be too late. He does have Zerglings positioned in advanced positions. He's seeing the one gateway, and I think that one gateway is misleading July. He doesn't have nearly enough Zerglings. He doesn't have Sunken's. He's trying to get his economy back on track, and I think this is good. And July has now scouted that. July has scouted it with his Zergling, so now Best has to attack here because that Zergling has been killed. July immediately getting Sunken's in, and he's positioning his Zerglings to try and intercept. July's got about 7 Zerglings, 2 Best is 3 Zealots. Best trying to do his micro here. Best got more Zealots coming in. July crucially managed to kill one of the Zealots, preventing Best from building up a force of 4 Zealots, and that's the key here that for July to keep. And I think if July can hold his defense here, this is going to be GG right here. July's already got 1 Sunken up and running. July's economy is also in pretty good shape, and I think now July probably has a slight advantage. Spire going up for July too. Best is running out of time to affect some damage here. I don't think he's even started a cybernetics core. That Spire is not going to be up in time for July to really affect a lot of damage. Best running away with the Zealots, making sure he defends his gateways. I think all July needs to do is make sure he shores up his defense. I'm not sure if Best has started up a Nexus in his National Expo yet. Best rebuilding a Forge. And July has got an Overlord there to scout as well. Best obviously has no anti-air. So I think now, because July managed to get that scout in just in the nick of time, now he's in prime position through his bold opening gambit to take the first match of this round.
Oh my goodness, this is absolutely ridiculous. And I believe that he would have been screwed if he had not scouted those gateways. I don't think he scouted with that first Zergling. Zerglings don't see very far. I could be wrong. But it looked like he didn't, because otherwise he wouldn't have gone in with around the other side with that Zergling before. He would have just gone straight in, I think, and seen what else was there. And July Zerg now, he's basically tied up, and he's actually I thought he was going to go in for a second. He's basically tied up most of the Zealots there. He can't really do much with those gates. He can't move out, because otherwise July Zerg will run in, and he'll snipe off that pylon, and then Best's gateways will be unpowered there, basically. And it was really, really smart move, by the way, of Best, I think, to put up that gateway in his main to fool July Zerg into thinking that he didn't have anything. But yeah, this is going to be very, very bad for Best in just a moment. He's just getting his Cybernetics core up, just getting it up. July Zerg's Spire is up, and I don't think Best expects this at all. I don't think he's even gotten a scouted because of those Sunkens and because of the Zerglings, so he doesn't know that July Zerg has gone for some quick tech despite his rush. So the Mulists are going to be popping out any minute now, any second now actually, and I don't think Best is prepared for this with just the Cybernetics core. He may have 1 Dragoon out. I don't think the cannons are going to be enough to deal with these Mulists.
Yeah, Best has got, I think, only a single. Crucially, he's only got a single photon cannon in his main. The Stargate is now going up. I think he might have started a second photon cannon. July is now bringing the Mutalisk in. Looks like July might. I think July might be heading straight for Best's main. And if July can get those Mutalisks in there before that second cannon goes up, it's going to be impossible for Best to hold any sort of defense. He might try and third cannon trying to come up for Best. July is now within range. The second cannon is not yet up, and this is going to be GG right here. His main is essentially going to be destroyed. Best doesn't even have his Stargate up. He's got a Cybernetics core up, but his gateways are too far from his base to get those Dragoons up, and this is going to be right here. So July really has taken the initiative. No one expected him. I guess fortune favors the brave. I think a lot of people might complain that yes, this was cheese on July's behalf, but that's the way it works. Best is now forced to do the only thing he can to try and draw those Mutalisks back with his Zealots, committing himself to this attack, but those Zealots are not even speed upgraded. July's got 3 Sunkens in waiting along with masses of Zerglings, and I think the stream has frozen or died.
Yeah,
my stream has just died, guys.
My stream isn't working either.
But I think that was GG right there.
There goes back.
Okay, the stream's back up. Best is in July's base. Stream seems to be lagging and freezing a little bit, but those Zealots are not going to be able to break through. The Sunkens hold, and I think Best GG's. So July takes the first game, and this is crucial here because this is Othello. This is the map that people who were saying Best was going to win were banking on. This is the map that they were saying that Best had a strong chance on because this map is played twice. And by taking the first game, July has really thrown a spanner into Best's plans. But that was a great game.
That was an awesome game. That was incredible. And yeah, even though it was a sort of a cheese, he didn't end up really winning it with the cheese part of it, because Best managed to hold that off. I think he won it with the way that he was able to counter the ingenuity that he had basically after the cheese didn't work, honestly. And he didn't, I'm not even sure if, well, I mean, obviously he intended to go for the quick lings as a kind of a gambit to throw Best off guard and then go into quick tech, and that was, I was going to say at first, like, oh, maybe he didn't, but of course that's probably what he planned from the beginning. Although, I guess theoretically, I don't know. Anyway, I'm just running my mind around in circles here. I'm pretty sure that he had planned that, and that was pretty genius. Even if he did it on the fly, that was genius as well. And, you know, really basically, not just cheesing him to death is my point, but also out tacticizing him.